Good afternoon, everybody. This is Monica Murnian from Greenbush. Glad you were able to join us today. I do ask that if you could please check and make sure that you are muted. On the bottom left-hand side of your screen, you should see a microphone button that says mute. If you just click on that, then that'll help us keep the noise down, and we appreciate you doing that. I'm pleased to be able to offer today the second in a series of 3 webinars regarding family engagement. We're looking at this kind of as a biting off little chunks at a time. All of these webinars will be available via video after the series is completed next week. Today, we're joined by Barbara Ganaway from KPERC, the Kansas Parent Information Resource Center. Many of you already know her. She's worked extensively down in Southeast Kansas, as well as up in some of our northern counties too. So the screen that you're seeing now is Barbara's. If you have any questions during the 45 to 50-minute webinar, you can go ahead and type those in, and we will be monitoring those. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Barbara.
Thank you, Monica. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you all for attending this afternoon. As Monica said, this will be recorded so that you can share it with your staff at a different time as well. But it is such a pleasure to be able to be a part of some of the kickoff programs with your LiNK grant, and congratulations on receiving those. That was quite an exciting opportunity for you. I'm also quite familiar, as Monica said, with Southeast Kansas, having worked with a previous grant for reading literacy in the Southeast rural communities, and just really enjoy visiting your districts and the folks in Southeast Kansas. So thank you again. I'd like to go ahead and get started and tell you a little bit about what we'll be doing today. As we've mentioned, we are the Kansas Parent Information Resource Center, and we are a TASN provider, part of the Technical Assistance Systems Network that is supported through the State Department of Education. So we work directly with the State Department of Education as a provider through the TASN network. And in our area, the emphasis is on family engagement. Today we have quite a few things we're going to cover. And so at the end, we'll have a quiz, not really, but at least a way for you to think about what you've heard today, and also to think about where you could utilize some of this information in your work. But we'll start with family literacy and be able to really understand what it is. What is the definition? There will also be a few examples of some research that hopefully by the end you can identify 2 of those examples, and how family engagement and family literacy are linked to the academic achievement of children. And kind of the underlying theme for this particular session will be to think of ways to build literacy partnerships with families. So with your LiNK grant, how are we going to build those partnerships that we may already have with our families, but incorporate the literacy component into that relationship? And so again, I'll be giving you quite a few activities to build these partnerships, and hopefully you'll be able to list a couple of them by the end. And lastly, we do like to discuss one very key component about family engagement, and these are 4 essential core beliefs that one of the nationally known researchers for family engagement, Karen Mapp, has identified 4 essential core beliefs. And so I think by the end too, you'll be able to identify at least 2 of those. We're going to begin first by reviewing a little bit of what Dr. Jane Groff shared last week. And that's when we talk about our family engagement partnership standards. Kansas did endorse the partnership standards in 2008, and they are on your screen now. And Jane talked a little bit about communication and collaborating and support student success. And today we're going to spend a little bit more time as well emphasizing the supporting student success and also speaking up for every child. And when we think about that with supporting student success, we want families and school staff to continuously collaborate to support students' learning and their healthy development both at home and at school, and have regular opportunities to strengthen their knowledge and skills to do so effectively. So this is where we really emphasize family literacy and what we can do to help families support the learning at home through what opportunities we provide to them. And then speaking up for every child, this particular standard refers to when families are feeling empowered to be advocates for their own children, that they're able to ensure that their students are treated fairly, but also have access to learning opportunities that will support their success. And as we learn as we go about our session today, these things we need to help them better understand and to give them those resources and those opportunities to empower them so that they know they can be helpful to you at school, but also, and most importantly, to their children as they're learning throughout their academic career. And next, Jane discussed as well last week the joining process. That we'll do a really just quick review, but the joining process is something we just want to always maintain in our memories of what we want to do when we work with families. We want to make sure we are welcoming our families, that we're letting them know that they're a part of the team and they're not an add-on, that we won't always speak to them during parent-teacher conferences. We'll speak to them on a regular basis, that they are the key to the success of the school and to their children, and then we as a community and a school cannot do it without them. And we think about connecting. We understand that that families do have the ability and the skills to contribute to the whole educational enterprise. So we want to connect with them and help them in all the ways possible to let them know that they are so important to our educational systems. And lastly is honoring. And this is something that we hold kind of near and dear to our hearts, that we make decisions of, we understand that families have the skills and that we do help work together in making decisions. So that's a quick review of some of the things Jane said. And I think I have someone that just came on. Thank you. If you wouldn't mind muting. Thank you. So we're going to begin today with defining family literacy. And we have a definition from the National Center for Learning and Disabilities. And that family literacy is defined as home literacy activities that provide literacy skill building opportunities for young children while enhancing literacy skill development in all members of the family. So it's important that we think about, while we research family literacy, you'll come across terms like literacy-rich homes, family-focused reading, homeschool connection, and all of these components are very important for promoting family literacy activities and to raise ready readers. And so we don't want to overwhelm families to think that they'll be reading 100 books a week to their children, but to let them know that we provide and have activities at home that help build skills and enhance literacy, then all members of the family will benefit. A few examples of our research indicate that schools that have unusually high success rates with struggling readers have high levels of family and community engagement. And I think this is just, the research is very clear that we know that children raised in homes that promote family literacy, they grow up to be better readers, they do better in school than children raised in home where literacy is not promoted. And we know that promoting family literacy is important to future reading and school success. While these activities are based on reading, there's a lot of other ways that families can do literacy activities at home, and we're going to talk about a few of those as we continue. It's also important to know that went the wrong direction, that we have another study that indicates that correlational studies have recognized the importance of such factors as the uses of print in the home, the number of books in the home, and the frequency of parent-child reading. These studies have also identified that specific home practices are more predictive than socioeconomic status of academic achievement. And that's another important piece of research also that Karen Mapp from our Family Engagement out of Harvard Research Project has mentioned, that students achieve more regardless of socioeconomic status ethnic, racial background, or the parent's education level. It's really what we can do to help families provide things in the home and to give them those tips and tools and those resources to help their children be successful. And lastly, on our research, schools that have unusually high success rate, I apologize, I'm going the wrong direction. When family engagement programs involved reading and include enjoyable and easy to use activities that provided a connection between home and school and home, children reported reading more often at home in their free time with adults. And you'll often hear this kind of conversation when when children see families and their teachers speaking, they just feel more engaged, they feel more comfortable, and they like to share more about what's going on at home and school with the families. So it is important that we maintain that communication so that families and children, when they go home, they can take home with them some of the things that they've learned in the school day. So again, we're going to emphasize today ways to build a literacy partnership with families, and this is kind of the fun part of really kind of digging in and just thinking about what are ways that we can do this in our classrooms, in our schools, and how do we build these literacy partnerships. And one of the first tips that we have is to send home family literacy bags. These are bags that may contain like high quality literature, like with extension activities or a guidebook for parents to read, and they can talk about the books with their children. It does require some extra preparation on the classroom teacher's part, but they can also be purchased. Or I've heard of some school districts, teachers gather in the summers and do a make and take, and they put together family literacy bags so that they're always handy and they can send those home regularly with families. But again, we're just trying to build that partnership, build that connection of sharing something we have in our school with the families at home so they can work on these same skills. We've also learned that sharing books that you use in the classroom are very helpful for families. Oftentimes families enjoy reading and rereading and listening to their children read, and it does help quite a bit with fluency. So the books that you use in your classroom, they could be sent home possibly in like a resealable plastic bag that they could to add on for further reading practice. And then maybe families could list, or the parents could then on a simple sheet that they did listen to their child read and checked for fluency. So they're kind of doing two things. They're enjoying the opportunity of reading with their child, but they're also supporting the work we're doing to help their child become a more fluent reader. You'll also find that if providing lists of the developmentally appropriate books, many parents you would really appreciate, and I know, the guidance in selecting appropriate books for their children. And so if teachers and schools can provide lists of those examples to refer and can refer families to appropriate websites that provide lists of books as well. But I think any kind of a tip or tool that helps them go and pick out good books, obviously encouraging them to go to the library and to the public library, and they can help there as well. But just something to help them better understand, what should I be giving my child to read? What is appropriate? Next, I think it's always important to offer parent workshops to teach parents how reading instruction is delivered in your school. I think many of us, even as educators, unless we're in the classroom actually teaching reading to our students, we forget some of those details and all the processes that we learned when we were learning to read. But so we need to help our families better understand what is the delivery model potentially in your school. And while parents, then they give them that, it empowers them to influence those skills and build upon that literacy and learning at home. So if you can provide strategies to also increase the benefits of home reading, that's always helpful. But just a workshop to talk about, here's what we're teaching at this developmental stage, here's what we're teaching at this developmental stage, and this is how we do it. And then they can support you at home while they're working with their children. A next kind of fun activity would be to host a book club for families. I've seen this done in a few different ways. I've seen it actually done at the school, and they titled it Books and Bagels. It was a duo, or kind of in the morning, early morning book club, where they create a book, and it's maybe a month long, not usually too long, or it's also been done through the internet and through email, or through a Zoom meeting or anything else. So you can do different ways of using technology to host a book club for families. But it's just kind of getting your whole community on board with a specific book for maybe the month, and then building activities on it, and then coming together to discuss it as well. Next is a use of your technology when we're talking about sharing books and giving ideas to the families, is to create your Twitter hashtag for sharing books, and kind of going beyond the traditional book reviews, but creating that school-wide Twitter that says maybe favorite books where, and students and teachers, they can write some super short reviews and highlights of recently read books, or the librarian can create interest in books by posting new titles on the school hashtag. So anyway, just an opportunity to create a way to communicate at home, to develop this partnership, to share in the joy of reading with your students and their families. I also wanted to give you an opportunity. As I prepared for this webinar, I spent quite a bit of time out there researching and searching, and you will find many, many, many websites out there to promote family literacy and learning and reading at home. But I pulled out a few that I thought maybe would be most helpful. And I'm not going to go into all of these. I'll let you go in and look at each one of them. But in particular, 25 ways schools can promote literacy and independent reading. This is a great site, just 25 simple steps. This is much more what you can do at school. There are some things to add on at home or share at home, but most of the learning will take place at school. But I really found that one to be a helpful site for you. Words Alive, this particular organization is actually a family literacy program, and they offer various sites throughout the country, and they discuss the importance of family literacy. They also have a variety of articles that you could read, and the one I've listed here, it's just their first one, and it is just the importance of family literacy. It gives examples of what they do in their programs, but also it's a tips and tools sheet for families to help them better understand some of the things that they can be doing at home. Next, this particular website is Early Learning, Childhood Basically, and Early Literacy, promoting this family literacy and early readers. And so it is geared much more toward the early readers, but talks about, going through the specifics of developing reading skills in the area of phonics and phonemic awareness and comprehension and fluency and everything. And so, but it really promotes literacy raising and improving readers. So that one I think I would suggest you take a look at. And this particular resource I always like to share because it's so simple, but our U.S. Department of Education always has, and I'm going to actually go to this one, a variety of sources for families. And on this particular site, I am hoping you can see the website. Monica? I was just going to make sure.
Hey, Barb, this is Kim Muff. I'm signed on as Jenny Merlat, but we still see your page with the websites, but I don't see that.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you. I won't go to it then. I knew I might have a glitch, but it's okay. You all can go to them when you have time, but it is just the Department of Ed, U.S. Department of Ed, and it will give you some great resources. It's for families. To tell them, what can I do to help my child become a better reader? But quite a few different listings there, and I think they're a valuable resource to all of us. And then I would also suggest that you consider reading Rockets. If you don't already go to their website, but you might want to consider getting their weekly newsletters. They have wonderful articles on reading, development, comprehension, everything from how to engage families, but also specific reading strategies, what we can do in the classroom, what we can do at home, what in the community. So if you don't already have that, I would encourage you to think about reading Rockets as a great resource for you. So that's just a small listing, and as I said, go to them when you have time, but it's there are so many out there, and I guess I had too much fun kind of just reading through them. One last kind of significant component of this particular webinar is that we always like to share with you as you think about building these partnerships and working with your families and family engagement is to understand that there are 4 essential core beliefs that Dr. Karen Mapp and Ann Henderson have come up when we think about family engagement. And that first core belief that we must believe as we work through this is that all parents have dreams for their children and want the best for them. So it's really vital that we as educators understand that the families who send their children to us each day, they want their children to succeed in school and in life. And yes, maybe they do some things that kind of lead us to wonder if they respect the importance of education, but usually these actions are triggered by some other stressful factors, so they just might need a little bit more help. But truly, all families have hopes and dreams for their children, and I think you'll find that if you're not already as you work with families. And then all parents have the capacity to support their children's learning, regardless, and it's important to know this, of how little formal education they may have or what language they speak. But all parents can contribute to their child's learning. They have knowledge, they have talents, and they have experiences in life. They gives them plenty of capacity for assisting their children with school skills. But it is important to know that school staff, we may need to help parents understand and use that capacity. But underlying message here is that all parents have funds of knowledge about their children, and that the community and in the community, and they should be respected and tapped for the school staff. The third core belief is that parents and school staff should be equal partners. And the relationship we stress with this between school staff and parents are commonly built on a kind of a lopsided power base, and parents often see school staff as the professionals and who have the power to assign children to their teachers or handle the discipline or make the rules. But as a result, parents may feel that they're supposed to help their children at home and come to the school when asked. So if that's the situation, this seems to be more likely that when they come from different backgrounds and they come to our school to help us, then we become more as partners. So we need to see ourselves as equal partners in this relationship with our families. And lastly, the responsibility of building partnerships between school and home rests primarily with the school staff and especially the school leaders. So it's really important that we create a climate and culture that supports partnerships with parents. We need strong leadership from both the principals and the teachers. Yes, the principal plays the key role, but teachers also have to step up as advocates for family engagement. And leadership from both of these sets of leaders, that kind of sets the tone for all of the staff. And so it's really important that we reach out, we help, we build these relationships, and we understand the importance of what we have to offer our families, and that they are an essential part of our school enterprise. I also wanted to share with you a sneak peek for next week's webinar, Sharing Family-Friendly Literacy Data. I'm thinking I've gone way too fast, but this is an example of a program at one of the schools in Kansas City, where every year they start off the year with a family literacy night, where they actually provide families with the first set of screenings of their kindergartners to indicate where they are and identifying their letters. And so within the room, there is a poster, as you can see on the left, that does actually show the data of all of the students in the classroom and where they are. The green line is where the state would like them to be, but the black line is where the school district would like all students to be. So that kind of gives the parents the idea of, well, where do we need to work to get? Then they also get the individual copy of the students' results. And so again, this is beginning of the year, this is kindergarten, and so there's, as you can tell, it's kindergarten, we have the most, the biggest gap and the biggest difference in the developmental stages within our classrooms. But they hosted this event, they made the alphabet pancakes, and they also had students using manipulatives to create the letters. And over you see in the shaving cream over there, but the families worked together in doing these. They also had a place where kids could go. It was like find letter H, and it was taped on the floor. And so the kids had to go to that letter and stand on it. And so just a lot of manipulatives. And then all of the families took home the stack of resources that they could work with their children. They actually got one of the containers to hold the pancake mix with the recipe so that they could make letters with their own pancakes. And then next week, actually, they are going to have another literacy night where they're going to come back and do a progress monitoring so they can show all of the progress the children have made. It's kind of a celebration, but it's also now the stepping stone for what's to come in the next few months. So it's kind of exciting, and Jane's going to share more about that next week and what we do in data collection. But I wanted to go ahead and let you know a little bit about that one before it gets started. So our objectives and our agenda, I hope you have a better understanding of what family literacy is. I hope you can explain 2 examples of how family engagement, family literacy are linked to the academic achievement of children. And that's important to remember. It doesn't matter the socioeconomic status of families. It's about what we can do to help having resources in the homes of families and giving them the tips and tools to help their children reading. Ways to build a family leaders partnership. I know I gave you about 4 or 5 examples, and then websites. And I hope you can use a couple of those or more. And then lastly, the 4 essential core beliefs that I think as you work towards building family engagement and building your partnerships through family literacy within your LiNK program, you keep in mind these core beliefs. I'd like to take a second to see if anyone might have any questions about any of the information we've covered. I think, Monica, I kind of went fairly quickly. I didn't anticipate that. Here is my contact information. If you do have any questions, let's see. Thank you, Jenny.
Yes.
Email it to you. Just give me a holler.
You're welcome to unmute if you have a question. We have a fairly small group on. Well, I think that we will end this one and look forward to hearing from Jane next week. And if you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to email me or contact me, as we will be in the future visiting or coming to your districts and talking to you and sharing ideas and working through your development of building family literacy partnerships. And we look forward to meeting you. So thank you so much for participating today. And thank you, Monica, and thank you, Jenny.
Thanks, Barb.
You're welcome.
On. Jenny, this is Kim Muff. I'm showing up as Jenny, but it's actually Kim.
Oh, hi, Kim. How are you?
I'm doing good. Hey, I've been out at several schools, and one thing that I continue to keep coming back to is that several people have said, we quit calling it like a literacy night. We call it family activity night or family game night. And, then when they're there, we talk to them about, or, do activities and fun things. But I'm specifically out in Western Kansas. They say that the word literacy tends to kind of frighten people away because they're like, oh, I don't know about that. And that would be, kind of tough. But I thought that was a good suggestion, is just to, once they get there, talk to them about literacy, but call it something else to, kind of keep that more in the lines of activity or game or family fun night or something like that. But you're great. I appreciate it. This is always the question that people have for me, so.
That's a good idea. That's really good, helpful to hear too.
Yeah. I mean, it is true that when others have told me that, I'm like, actually, that's pretty relevant. I get that. So especially, ELL families, that we tend to scare them away more than bring them in.
That's right. I know Jane just posted that she's heard of Superheroes Night.
Yeah, just fun. Yeah. So
yeah, that's a great idea.
Your information. So.
Oh, sure. Well, there's plenty more. It's hard to consolidate it in so much, and then it's really nice to engage in conversation.
Well, I know. And I plan to ask Greenbush if we can post the URL, the recordings to wide literacy network of Kansas site, because I know, it's just time wise. I think we'll get a lot of others to be able to listen on just at other times. So
Right.
Thank you.
It's a great idea. Thanks, Kim. It's good to hear from you. Look forward to seeing you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Anyone else?